Welcome to The World According to Mike Graham. It's a big show, so let's get on with it. And as usual, we're going to start with my deep dive. So, Matt Hancock. He's an interesting guy, and he's got some very interesting hobbies. He likes to hang out on social media, but he likes to be down with the kids. Here he is doing something called parkour. Something that he likes to do as well is to get up close and personal. And in fact, in some cases, he gets up close and a bit too personal. Here he is getting way too close with a prospective parliamentary MP, one Wendy Macy from Warrington.
My second visit this week, actually, seeing some of the amazing work that the staff are doing here at the hospital.
And there's something else about Matt Hancock. He can't sit down like a normal person.
This awful disease.
I mean, what's he doing? He looks as though he's just falling back like a sack of potatoes and he's just going to be hopefully caught by someone. And here he is, not finishing an interview properly.
Secretary, thank you for your time with us this morning.
It's very good to have me on. Thank you very much.
This is Matt Hancock weeping in front of Piers Morgan and Susanna Reid on Good Morning Britain.
Just simple words there, reacting it. You're quite emotional by that.
Well, it's just, it's been...
And of course he was back on ITV later in the year, wasn't he? Because he decided to go to the jungle and become one of the contestants for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And he insisted that he was normal. Why? Because he likes Ed Sheeran.
You between my arms. That one. Barefoot on the cross. Don't get me singing, I'm terrible.
No,
listening to my favourite song.
He doesn't even kiss like a normal person. I mean, have a look at this. Who could forget these images that we all saw that resulted in the end, pretty much, of his political career? What's he doing with his hands? Where are they going? He's like a teenager. She's not much better. And finally, we're right up to date with weird Matt Hancock, because here's the most recent video, and this is his social media clip pretending to be Ken.
I'm just Ken, where I see love, she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the tent and fight for?
Next, we'll talk to an expert and find out what makes him tick. And who better to talk to than a woman who probably knows him better than anyone, the one and only Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, TalkTV's international editor. Isabel, you've worked very closely with Matt Hancock. You wrote a book with him. You've seen his WhatsApp messages. He's a very curious character, isn't he?
He's a very curious and complex character. I'm not sure we've got long enough to go through all the things I know about Matt Hancock. I mean, I have to say that I did like working for him mostly, although there was one occasion where he was so astonishingly rude to people in a meeting. So astonishingly rude that I actually had to, it was a Zoom meeting, I actually had to leave the meeting and go outside and walk around the local churchyard to calm myself down, because I had never in my whole career seen a politician behave in such a way.
Wow.
You know, and that was just a complete moment of total arrogance in which it was his way or the highway. But he's a very clever guy. You know, he does have a sense of humour-ish, as long as it's not at his own expense. But he's also quite extraordinarily vain. So when I was working with him on his pandemic diaries, one of the biggest and most farcical long-running sagas we had was over what picture of himself should be on the front cover of the book.
Right.
I have never known anyone reject so many images of himself as being not quite handsome enough or not quite striking the right pose. I mean, the publishers were absolutely tearing their hair out.
I mean, I find it astonishing that one of the things he seems to lack is any sense of self-awareness, because some of the things he says and some of the things he does, you just think, what were you thinking? What did you do that for?
I agree. I mean, no self-awareness whatsoever. And yet, you know, there are aspects of that personality that you've got to admire. I mean, he went into the jungle. You know, at the time I was very annoyed about the way in which he did it, because we were still finishing a project.
Because you were working together and he didn't tell you he was doing it, right?
He didn't, and he really left me in the lurch, about which he was, by the way, completely unapologetic, character realistically. But then I watched him in the jungle, and yes, some of his things that he said at the beginning were pretty annoying about how, he'd just come to ask for forgiveness and understanding and all of that, which is pretty annoying. But actually his kind of Tigger-like enthusiasm for the tasks and the way in which he really went for it and did those awful, like really, really difficult tasks incredibly well. I have to say he began to sort of win a lot of people round.
I think he did towards the end. But of course, the other problem he's got is he doesn't like it if you don't do what he wants, because he was quite annoyed with you, wasn't he, when he discovered that actually you had written pieces for the Telegraph based around all of his WhatsApp messages and what the work was that you'd done with him.
Well, that was only the smallest aspect of interaction we had, where I saw that he doesn't like people not doing what he wants. He is generally a very good manager of people, and he's got a very loyal team. I can't believe how loyal they are, given what he's put them all through. He employs very talented individuals in his Commons office, but he does expect things to be his way. And if he thinks that somebody is in some way inferior to him, then he will make sure that they know exactly who's boss. And I think that this is partly the product of having been a cabinet minister for many years, but particularly during COVID, being the health secretary, where I think he began to believe his own godlike status in his mind.
Well, I think so. By the time he was weeping in front of Piers Morgan and Susanna Reid, I think he'd sort of obviously hit peak Hancock.
This is a guy who's already had several comebacks. I'm slightly concerned that he might reappear on I'm a Celebrity for yet another kind of trying to turn around his ailing showbiz career and subject us all to the whole thing all over again.
Well, sorry, go on.
I'm not sure where he does go from here. I don't think that there's a market for Matt Hancock on television anymore. He is a very bright guy, so I think he could perhaps find a niche in some kind of digital advisory role, some culture, media and sport related role. But he is incredibly damaged and, very, very loathed by a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so. And do you think he knows that he's weird?
No. I don't think he actually does know that, no. I think he thinks that he is extraordinarily attractive and compelling. And, this is something I've noticed, it's not at all unique to Matt Hancock. It is a trait of very successful, we can argue about how successful, but politicians, is that there's a narcissism there. They are basically almost sociopathic. They utterly believe in themselves, and it is that tremendous self-belief that has enabled them to get where they are. They don't do self-doubt. One of the difficult things about working with Matt on his book was actually getting him to admit things that he had got horribly wrong. He had to try quite hard to come up with many examples of where he'd screwed things up. I can come up with any number of examples from my own life. I have no difficulty in saying that I routinely screw things up. Each and every day brings another embarrassing example of my incompetence. And I wasn't even the health secretary. That is just not something that's on his radar.
Oh, fascinating. Really interesting. Thank you very much indeed. Isabel Oakeshott, the woman who knows Matt Hancock best, although she might argue that there are others who know him a little bit better. But what a fascinating insight. He doesn't think he's weird. That's Matt Hancock, and that's my deep dive for this week. And now it's time for Trump's Takedown.
You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
I think that crooked Joe Biden is not only dumb and incompetent, I believe that he has gone mad, a stark, raving lunatic with his horrible and country-threatening environmental open borders and DOJ, FBI weaponization policies. He is a mental catastrophe that is leading our country to hell. We'll end up in World War III because of this man, and for no reason whatsoever. Thank you.
You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
That was Trump's Takedown. After the break, it's time for Prime Minister for a week. Welcome back to The World According to Mike Graham. What would you do if you were Prime Minister for a week? And today, we have with us two fine contenders. One of them is going to emerge as the Prime Minister for a week. And as we've said before, a week is a long time in politics, especially if you lose trust. Now, I'm introducing you for the first time to this show to Lois McClatchy-Miller, cultural commentator. Welcome, Lois. Thank you very much for joining us for the first time on The World According to Mike Graham. And an old adversary, stroke legend that I've known for many years, Asher Gould. Anyway, listen, let's kick things off because we haven't got a lot of time and you've got lots of great ideas. So, Lois, I'll give you the first dibs.
Alrighty.
What would you do if you were Prime Minister for a week?
Well, I would make anyone who censors comedy have to do a one-man show at the Edinburgh Fringe.
Very
now,
good.
obviously, this week we saw
Yes.
that a comedy club cancelled the event of a famous comedian simply based on the fact that he had called a woman and expressed gender
controversial views, some would say.
Controversial.
But of course, they're not
to
controversial
some,
at all,
perhaps,
are they?
but
They're the right views.
He's now suing them, isn't he?
It used to be a cool place to go and do comedy, and now no one
The head of
wants
the
to go,
comedy
so
says
it's
she
gonna get
wants more
cancelled.
woke comedy. Well, that's what if you hear
That's
people
not
clapping at a
comedy.
comedy club, that's the wrong reaction.
There's no
They
such
should be
thing as woke
laughing.
comedy. I mean, Graham Linehan is not woke. He's not about being woke, and neither should comedy be about that.
No, and he's not. But he's actually for women.
Yeah.
He's defending it.
Right.
The world's upside down. Mark.
It really is. It really is. What's your first one then, Ash?
Right, I'm saying protests should be banned.
All of them.
Yeah, just anyway,
Every
because I
single
mean, they've taken it too far. They're blocking the roads. But why do we need protests? We live in a democracy.
Yeah.
We have the ballot box. I don't understand what protest is for. I like, there was the poll tax rights, and then if you want to get the point
That was a
across,
proper protest.
that's what a proper protest is. But we don't need to protest. Go to your MP lobby and get it voted through. Like.
Also, they're not really protests, are they? I mean, people like Just Stop Oil, they're not protesting. They're just kind of actors.
They're like toddlers throwing it.
Yeah, but it's like some kind of performance art they're doing.
Don't ban protests, bring back a real protest, which is actually popular.
You're right. I said to one protester, they blocked a bridge. I said, you're like a terrorist. They go, what are you talking about? I said, well, the IRA blew up bridges, but no one was killed. You could block a bridge and block it and people were killed. So actually, they're doing worse.
It's worse. It's worse, right. So, Lois, number 2 for you.
Okay, well, I would require sporting authorities to only award women's sporting trophies to women. Radical,
Wow, another
right?
controversial
Crazy.
idea. Wow, incredible.
Yeah, I mean,
Unlike the recent weightlifting scenario.
Well, exactly.
Where that bloke lifted a really, really heavy weight.
And the Daily Mail only
then dissed all the women who were in the competition with him and said they were no good at lifting it.
I know, he was mocking them.
There was a man who actually, to make a point, because you can declare yourself on the day going, and he did it, won it, and to take the mick out of the ridiculous of the whole thing.
Yeah.
In years, they'll all get the gold
That
medals.
used to be a joke, and now they're actually doing it for real. And there was an article in
It's almost like people are not noticing, isn't it? It's like somebody sneaked in.
They're afraid to.
He's obviously not a woman, but yet they're all going, oh, yeah, he's good.
It's moral cowardice.
Sorry, she's good.
They're moral cowards, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They don't want to confront
we'll
it.
remember them when it turns around again.
Yeah.
That's what social media's for.
We will remember.
We will remember them.
Yeah. Number 2 for you?
Right, number 2, people should wear hats to denote their social position in society.
That's
like in
good.
the old days, everyone
I
wore,
like
you look at the
that.
50s, everyone wears hats.
Yeah.
So, you'd know what sort of social position, what sort of job
So like a
they've got.
flat cap would be what?
Well,
example?
that's the working class, a
The
guy
working
who
class.
maybe and goes to the pub and like I don't know what media would wear, maybe sort of like a Robin Hood type hat
Panama
with a
hat.
feather
No.
or a Panama. Yeah, it
Panama
depends on what.
Mm.
I'll talk TV.
That's the only hat I've got. I bought a Panama hat once. Just
Well,
because
let's
I
call
was-
it a Panama, like the one Churchill would wear sometimes.
Yeah, well, interesting. Number 3, Lois.
Well, I would have subsidised weddings. Now, I do this with a little bit of vested interest. I got married a couple of months ago and it was so expensive.
Mazel
But you
tov.
know what? There was comments made
Still
this
married,
week.
are you?
What's that?
You're
I'm
still
still
married?
married
Well
a few
done.
months later. Thank
Good
you
stuff.
so
So far,
much.
so good.
So far,
Congratulations.
so good.
Fantastic.
Thank you. But there's been such a backlash in the media this week against Snow White and the new American actress
yeah.
who's playing her.
Yes.
Because she says that, like just putting out Prince Charming from the story and like women don't need
Well,
no
she
man.
thinks he's a bit of a stalker, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's saying that he's a stalker.
What
and,
about
like,
the dwarves?
what?
I mean, you can't have
Can't,
them.
no.
That
You
very
can't have any of
famous
them.
guy who's very small and was
Yeah.
in Game of Thrones. He made millions, and then he said, "Oh, you shouldn't hire people who are small. It's cruel." He made his millions and pulled up the drawbridge.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that the Dwarfs Association of America are now really upset because none of them are getting a job. They were all
Right.
going, great, they're
They could have had
remaking
7
Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Great news.
Yeah, well
and then it was
done.
like, oh, sorry.
It's like when they
We're not
banned the
having any
Pit
dwarfs,
Girls.
is it?
Yeah.
Eh?
Like when they banned the Pit Girls from Formula One.
Yeah, yeah.
They've ruined they haven't
Right.
got a career now.
I mean,
Yeah,
when
these
you
girls.
start problematizing like one little bit of a 1937 fairy tale, the whole thing falls apart. So we now have the situation where we have these, like the crazy casting, but also the fact that they're saying that women shouldn't want their Prince Charming anymore, and then that marriage is a bad thing, and like you can't want.
You shouldn't be allowed to divorce though. The vow is in
that.
sickness and health never divorce. You never. If you
Till
vow,
death us do part.
Till death us do part. If you agree.
Did you say that? You don't have to say that. You can change the vows.
Yeah, but you said it, didn't you?
No, I said it. I
Did you?
promised.
So what is it that you
papers.
want? You want some crowdfunding money, or what do you want?
I want young people to be incentivized by the government to have marriages because they're great for society.
What, you mean
great
through
for
the tax
individuals.
system even?
Yeah, I think
the Tories used to do that.
Have
They
tax
used to
breaks
give
for
tax
marriage.
breaks to married
Because you
couples.
know what? We're a
Yeah, they shouldn't do
lonely-
that because you actually cost money now. And when you have kids, it's even more. Did you buy your dress?
Of course I bought my
And what will you do with it? Will you wear it every year on your anniversary or something?
Ooh, that's a bit strange. I don't know. I think I'll probably give it away to someone.
Or dye it another colour?
No,
and
you
just
save
wear
it for your daughter. You give it to your daughter.
Yeah, that's,
She
she'll
gets
want a
married.
new one though. Be out of fashion.
I would have wanted a new one. Sorry.
Would
Mama.
you?
But, but yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think
don't know. I
it would be
only
good
got married
to promote
once,
these things.
and my ex-wife, I don't know what, I think she may have burned the dress in a bonfire.
I think that was 'cause
She
of-
burned a lot of other things. She went.
Well, it was made of polyester.
She took a trip to. It wasn't.
No.
She took a trip to Bath, which is where we met, especially so that she could throw her wedding ring into the river.
Oh.
How about that?
Well, she should have just sold it.
That's what I said.
Got a few quid.
Or giving it back to me, and I could have sold it.
Yeah,
I bought it.
She probably told you that.
You think it's expensive getting married? Wait till you get divorced. Anyway, Ash,
my
what's
next
your
one
next one?
is this made the papers when I said this on TalkTV. Only people earning £50,000 should get the vote.
Okay.
Now hold on, everyone, before you all get crazy.
50,000 a week.
Yeah, no,
So it's
yeah,
only
50 grand a
footballers.
year. Yeah, football. No, they shouldn't get the vote at all. But 50 grand a year. But it's not that bad because if you earn like
That
say,
before tax.
No, before tax.
Yeah, okay.
So if people could club together earn 25 grand each and have a vote between them, or three people.
Oh, so what, three could...
Yeah, but it gives the right amount of who's got a stake in society.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
gives them the right. You pay more, you get more choice. That's how it works.
Or you could go around the other way and say, basically, if you're unemployed, you can't have a vote.
Well, yeah, of course you should. What, do they get the vote?
Oh, yeah.
Which is outrageous. The world really has gone
I know.
upside down. And
I
prisoners.
know.
No,
how do you
prisoners
think?
don't.
How do you think Star was going to get elected?
Yeah, that's
the
true.
unemployed
It's
are
all
going
the
to vote
prisoners,
for
isn't it?
You know.
Yeah.
But don't you think that it's a lot of like the woke London elites who are on very high salaries are not necessarily making the great voting choices?
Well, the London elites, the champagne socialists, who only live in London, don't live
Right.
anywhere else, they will all vote Labour because they think that's the right thing to do.
Right.
And it doesn't affect them.
Nothing affects them because
Yeah.
they're so well off.
So this
Yeah, and their jobs pay for their ULEZ and things like that.
Well, they work for people like, either parliamentary jobs they've got, or they work in charities, a lot of that.
It's all expenses as well,
It's
so don't
all-
worry
yeah.
about that. And then
Yeah.
they get a good wage.
And
on
also,
it.
their mummy and daddy's got a big house somewhere. So
Oh, yeah. They've
even
got
if
good
they end up
inheritance
losing
coming.
their job, they've got a
So
nice inheritance coming.
So you think that it's only people who are on 50k exactly, or 50k and above, that should get the
50k
vote?
and above, and if you've got lower, you club together with other people
Can you
to
have
buy a
more than,
vote.
say if you've got 100,000?
No, I've thought about that. I mean,
2 votes.
But wouldn't you just have the elite?
Yeah, because then you could have millionaires just voting in, their own.
Right.
I know
What you mean like they do now?
We will have to look at increments, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's an
it's when you
interesting-
start earning so
I mean,
much
certainly
that
universal
kill
suffrage
off.
is, I think, something that's had its day.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's time
too
we
much
start
of it.
banning
People have got
people
too much
voting.
power.
Yeah, exactly right.
We've got to take a bit back.
Lois.
Well, finally, I think
These
that-
are great, by the way. These are all very good.
very sensible. I think we should establish new police training to tell the police what a crime actually is.
Yes.
Or
And
just
now-
some police training. Just any
Just police training.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's
the pitch.
that's a very tough call. Because who are you going to get to tell them what a crime is? Are you going to get like old police officers?
Well, how about we start by telling them what a crime isn't? Now,
Right.
there's 2 instances of this week. You might have seen that there was an autistic girl
Right.
made maybe like a slightly.
She said this lesbian-looking woman looked like a
said
lesbian.
a police.
No, she said it looked like her lesbian nana. She was
Nana.
being literal. She's
Yeah.
autistic.
Yeah.
And they said they're going to drop the charges. Well, there shouldn't be a charge because
No.
there was no intent.
But they
She was just
dragged her
saying a
out of the
fact.
house
Yeah.
as well. Did you see?
7 police
Yeah.
officers.
She
in
did look
her
like a
house.
lesbian nana.
She did. Well, listen. Have you got any more? Or is that it?
Yeah, I have got more. This is a big one.
'Cause I haven't got
Replace
the list.
cars with Dodgems. Right? Dodgems, right? They're electric, aren't they? So they're all electric. We put the wires all above the streets. And everyone can bump. It goes about 20 miles an hour. It doesn't matter if you bump.
Yeah.
It's safety. Yeah.
Which is brilliant. And you
No
just
need
take
for
off.
airbags. You've got those big bumpers and everything's all right. Everyone's
all
been
the-
happy as well. Going,
the
So
green
everybody would
people
have.
love you.
It'd
You
be
don't
like,
realise that
like
anymore.
China. Everybody would have the same car, so there'd be no car envy.
Exactly, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they could all be the same colour.
You wouldn't
They'd
have
be
to
nice.
wear-
Socialism.
Also, you wouldn't have to worry about parking. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that. You don't have to worry about parking.
No.
You just leave it.
You leave it and someone else takes it. So they're just all over the
Does
place.
a guy occasionally ride on the back of it?
Yeah, just
stands-
holds on.
Holds on.
For no reason.
Who's that guy?
But it's just to bring it for nostalgia reasons. Yeah.
That's very funny.
Yeah, man.
Well, listen,
I like it,
these
I
are all
like it.
very good ideas, I have to
Thanks,
say. But I'm going to err on the side of Lois, I think, because I think I like Lois's ideas. They're slightly more practical. She wants to sort the police out, which I think is
Yeah,
important.
that's good, actually.
I'm not so sure about paying for your marriage or paying for everybody else's marriage, but I
Tax
don't
rates.
mind a tax. I don't mind a tax incentive. I don't want to ban all protests either, which is why I'm kind of veering towards.
They've got out of hand, Mike.
They have got out of hand. I just want to ban some protests, i.e. the ones I don't
Good
like.
idea,
The ones I don't like.
Yeah.
Ban those.
Good, actually.
The ones I do like, you keep.
I should have thought.
So, Lois, well done.
Oh, thank you very
You
much.
can now be Prime Minister for a week.
Oh, I look forward to
I mean,
it.
you can't do any worse than the lot that are currently being Prime Minister for a week, because he's away still.
Can I have a job,
Sunak's still
like,
away.
Oh, you can
Would you
maybe come
employ
onto
him?
cabinet.
Foreign Secretary or something.
Foreign
Yeah.
secretary.
How about Secretary of State for Defence?
All right, yeah. I could get weapons then, don't I? Yeah,
You do.
I love weapons.
You get your own weapons.
I'll put you in
brilliant.
charge of the roads and the cars.
Okay, yeah, well, at Dodgems it is then.
There you go.
Maybe a Ferris wheel. Oh, we've got that.
It's fantastic. Well done. So, Asher Gould, thank you very much indeed. Lois McClatchy-Miller, well done.
you.
You are Prime Minister for a week, and that was Prime Minister for a week. What a week for the President of the United States. It's time for Biden's Balls Up.
Great job. God, lovely. How are you? Hey, everyone. I'm Joe Biden's husband. As you heard tonight, excuse me, you can see why she's the love of my life.
Now it's time for my apology of the week. Once upon a time, there was a man who thought he was so powerful that he could do anything he wanted. And it wasn't until he became Mayor of London that he agreed with that particular premise. And he worked out that he could do anything he wanted. And that man's name, of course, is Sadiq Khan. Now, I've been a bit mean about Sadiq Khan in the past. I've accused him of being a megalomaniac. I've accused him of some things which perhaps I shouldn't have done. I've accused him of being an absolute maniac for power. I've said that all he wants to do is to make London in his own image. He wants to stop people driving cars. He wants everyone on bicycles. He wants to have everyone on public transport. He cares, apparently, about the air pollution, but he doesn't care about the tube and people getting absolutely snuffed out as they go down, breathing in that foul stench of the air. But I suddenly thought to myself, maybe I've been a bit hard on Sadiq Khan, and maybe it's time I gave him a bit of leeway. Until, of course, I saw the story this week in which he has said to other council leaders around London that they should put their politics aside and just bend to his will on the ultra-low emission zone. Well, I'm sorry, Sadiq, but I'm not sorry. I was right all along, and I'm not going to apologise to you ever again. So there. So that's my apology for the week. That's the world according to Mike Graham for this week. Coming up next, it's What Just Happened with JJ Anasioka. I'm Mike Graham and this is TalkTV. You know what we're going to do now, don't you? It's Plank of the Week time. We do it every Friday night. It goes out at 7 p.m. and you don't want to miss it. Do you know why? Because it includes all of the people that you love to hate. It might even include some of the people that you love to love. It might be Harry and Meghan. It might be Sadiq Khan. It could be a football team. It could be the Prime Minister. It could be the Leader of the Opposition. It might even be someone up in Scotland. You never know. Watch us every Friday, 7 p.m.